special good evening to Director of Crime Stoppers Trinidad and Tobago and Neighborhood Watch Program, Mr. Darrin Carmichael. A pleasant good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, Mikee K.
Good evening.
To your fellowship.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Last time, so many people had questions. And of course, over the weekend, this Easter weekend, these home invasions. I mean, we're talking about in certain areas, young men, people seem so vulnerable in their homes. And I'm sure you have a lot that's going on as far as many communities reaching out to you. Tell us, I mean, in the midst of all of this, many of us feel so vulnerable at home. What do you recommend?
Well, I mean, it's kind of pretty easy. Now, there are a number of things. Well, first and foremost, let us kind of put in context what we are calling home invasions, because, you know, a lot of the times we could tend to mix it up, so to speak. So let's be absolutely clear, right? The home invasion, or what we would want to term as home invasion robberies, right, is really, is not burglary, it's not a break-in, it's not the kind of robbery that would happen to you in the street and so on. This is a robbery that takes place in your dwelling house, at home, right? And if we understand that, what it really means is that the perpetrators, the offenders are saying to you, we want to get you in your house and we want to have that physical confrontation, all right? And the reason for that is simple. They know that on the street, they get what you have in your pocket or in your handbag. In the car with a carjacking, they get what you have in the car. But at home, the takeaway is much greater, if you think about it. So they are there at your home, they can take all the jewelry, all the cash, all the electronics, they can pack suitcases with stuff, they can then drive up in your AD wagon, and you could understand the kind of value they would have gotten there, right? So they are now looking at that as the prime method of really attacking persons now, which is why we need to be absolutely careful where that is concerned.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. But let me ask you this, Mr. Carmichael. One of the things that we're seeing is that going back to, you know, the understanding that it takes a village to raise a child. I mean, that means more now than ever. Many of these young people who are committing these crimes on these homes, many of them come from right there in the very said community. They're right there. They're not, I mean, they're homegrown. They're community grown.
Yeah.
They're right there. And one would think that when you have something like this taking place, everyone would be more than willing to participate, to come out, and to be a part of the solution. But is it somewhat challenging at times because some people may turn a blind eye and say, you know what, forget about that. That's part of the community. These things will happen, while in fact many people are under siege in their homes. How challenging is it for you to actually deal with some of these communities and shed a light on what's really the problem?
Well, Michael, you know, I have been stomping this ground for many years. And you know, what I've seen is that not everyone comes out, not everyone attends the meetings, and it's for simple reasons, you know, it hasn't reached home to them as yet. You know, so when you paint a picture, and yes, sometimes the criminals come from the very bowels of the streets and the communities where we operate within, all right? But what people don't understand is unless it's hit home, like that incident in Arangwes, that would have driven home the point, for this weekend, how long does that flavor of the month, so to speak, last? You know, and it's important that people understand that when they kick down your door and they grab your daughter, in spite of the fact that you have the baseball bat and the shovel and you plan for this and so on, and you tell yourself you know what you're going to do, when that situation hits and you realize that, listen, my son, my daughter, my wife is at risk and they're already here, what do I do? Sometimes all you can do is subdue yourself. Right? And that pain and that suffering lingers on because with a robbery in the street, you're passing another street next day. With a robbery such as that in your home, you have to continue every day, day in, day out to relive that trauma because you have nowhere else to go sometimes. So we want to be able to impress upon people the importance of taking this seriously. the importance of coming together as a community, the importance of listening to the advice and the different things that you see in the articles in the newspapers. I've said it every single meeting for the last 23 plus years. The security experts are speaking on it every opportunity they get. The police have an acronym out there, something called ARREST. I don't know if you saw it. It's basically, tips basically telling you things you can do to avoid a home invasion, right? So we are not starved for information, but I suppose it's not sexy. It's not something that the average person picks up their phone and look at every day, right? They don't see it as important or topical until it happens to you.
I understand. I understand that point, Mr. Carmichael. Here's the part that kind of I'm lost on. In many of these communities, the neighbors will feel a sense of security because there's someone here from the defense force living, a couple soldiers, a couple police officers. So, they expect them to have some sort of, participation and lead as far as security. But they say, listen, when I come home, I don't have time for that. I want to relax. I've had a hard day. But the fact of the matter is criminals do not take a holiday. They don't take a break. They don't relax. So it's sort of conflicting because, as you say, not everyone participates. But there are those people that you would think that will be front and center when these programs are rolled out in the communities.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I have not been able to put the answer to it. What I do know is that, if I can get if an area of 50 residents and 10 come to the meeting, that's 10 less people that we worry about, right? And we encourage them to build and expand the groups and so on, and they have been doing that, all right? But it's important that people understand that, really, the security that we strive for is oftentimes within our control, right? We have the ability to remove that opportunity from the equation, and unless people come together and get the information, get the skills and the things that they need to know in terms of how to evade this, we are going to be nowhere, all right? The criminals are adapting. The criminals are desperate. The criminals are driven. The criminals are motivated. And yet we sit down and put priority on some other things as opposed to attending meetings and being front and center with this type of information. I applaud you. I applaud you and all the people like you who put this out there in the media, who make it, top of mind and so on, and continue to do that over the years. But we need people to recognize that you cannot place your safety and your security in the hands of a police officer who is your neighbor, in the hands of the police or the state, in the hands of anybody else except yourself. So we need to do things in and around our homes. We need to act differently. We need to take actions. We need to do things that will create that that separation, so people understand that we are not soft targets anymore. All right, and I want the neighborhood watch group, those who have groups and WhatsApp chats and all these things, to know that these things are working. We are beating the streets. We are making headway, and we will win. But we have to get more and more people to come on board and join.
Let me ask you something, Mr. Carmichael. I mean, if you're faced with a situation where someone actually comes into your home, because you did mention if you're in your vehicle and somebody grabbing your chain, I mean, they grab the chain and they run off. You're somewhere and somebody sticks a gun on your side, they take your whatever valuables you have and they leave. But when they come into your home, when they come into your space, that space that you occupy, filled with memories that you have shared with your family members, and they come there and they basically defecate the entire place because you don't even feel safe in your home again. You're not confronting the average criminal. And it was said by a former commissioner of police that this is a different breed. I don't want to say monsters or what have you, but they walk among us. What is your best advice? Because it's not to say they're coming and they're just going to pack a suitcase, take the value. They want to stay. They want to torture you. They want to beat you. They want to abuse you. What is the best advice when you're confronted with this type of scenario?
Well, I mean, my starting point is really to prevent. But you're saying that they're already in and they're there. Well, most of the times, really and truly, you evaluate the situation that you're in, And I mean, if it's the element of surprise and you have no choice, you're overpowered, you're outnumbered, you're outgunned, then really and truly is about getting them out of there as fast as possible, right? So it might mean surrendering your valuables. Everything physical and tangible can be replaced. Your life cannot. So it's really about surrendering your valuables and giving them what they require. If they ask for the PIN, give them the PIN for your bank cards and so on, because they're going to send somebody to the bank and they're going to realize it's fake and they're going to tell the person there, to do what they need to do to get the right information from you as they have done. So you want to be sure that you give what. Now, let's back up a little bit.
Yeah.
What has created a lot of these home invasions that we are seeing in some targeted ones particularly? It is where people go to the casinos and they have winnings. And if they don't take it in the car park of the casino, they follow you home. It is where persons, particularly over COVID, a lot of homes were transformed into cash generating businesses, where they are cooking food, where they are selling something, where they are into online marketing or whatever it might be. A lot of these persons, people visit your home and collect items and pay for items. So they are aware that this is a cash-generating residence, and so on. A lot of people as well own businesses, and they see them leave the businesses and come straight to their homes and are followed sometimes. So when you look at that type of scenario, you must do all the things necessary to make sure that cash isn't at home, and that if you're being surveilled, people don't see that you're coming straight to the home and not going to a bank or some facility to pass it off. All right, or having a cash pickup by an armored car company or something. All right. So first and foremost, you have to do as much as you can to not be a target or not put yourself in harm's way like that. Right. And of course, if it does happen, like I said, you need to take the actions that are best in terms of preserving the safety of your family, give them what they want, subdue, and let them get out of there. In all of this, be good witnesses, make good witnesses if you need to do. Look at certain things, streets, vehicles, whatever it might be. You may have a camera system, or your neighbors may have a camera system after the fact. But the idea is to get them out of there as quickly as possible, and so on, and don't be difficult and cause problems, because they're already in, right? And the whole idea is that they are coming there for whatever it is they feel the house has. Sometimes they have good intelligence. It might come from somebody who visits the home, a friend of your son or something. It might come from some helper or some contractor that works at the home. It may come from other intelligence that they may be gathering within the community and so on. So oftentimes, these homes are not random, but when they are, you are in a position to at least treat with it probably beforehand. And I'm going to tell you 3 simple ways you can look at it is identify where some people come to you like a con, where they come in under the guise of being T and Tech and WhatsApp and a delivery company, a food drop organization, or whatever it might be, even police. And they knock on your door and try to make their way in with some trick or some scam. Do not open the door if you're not expecting any packages. Do not open the door if you're not expecting anyone. That's the first order of business. In the event where they try to follow you in, of course, through our neighborhood watch meetings and so on, we have information in terms of how you check to see if you're being followed, cut the grass around your home, cut the trees, cut anywhere that people may secrete themselves and pounce on you, which is the surprise type attack. All right? And you want to be able to safeguard against those. And then, of course, the third way they come at you is what you call the blitz attack. And the blitz attack is basically run up to your door and kick it in, that type of thing. All right, and that is traumatic, it's fearful, it's shouting, it's guns, it's, the violence that comes with it. All right, so you want to be able to have strong doors and locks, much like the person in Aranguez who said she secured herself in a domicile and was able to raise an alarm and call the police and so on. You must be able to secure your locks on your doors and so on. Gone are the days of leaving doors and windows open, sitting in the gallery and so on. Yes, it appears as if we are the one living behind bars, but the criminal elements have us there. And unfortunately, that is now our reality. All right?
Quickly,
it's important to understand that those are the scenarios that may occur, and how do you prevent it?
And that's the reality. Before you go, quickly, for those who want to start getting involved and having it in their community, first step, what do they do?
Well, you may contact my number directly is 312-2281. You can contact us through the Secretariat at Crime Stoppers, which is 800-TIPS, or online it will be www.crimestopperstt.com. So there's an online presence. You can click on the tab that says you want to start a neighborhood watch group, and you'll get all the assistance and help in terms of setting up one and getting a meeting in your area and so on. But you need to first have like-minded, law-abiding people come together to recognize this, and we cannot do it alone. Let us get the support of the Neighborhood Watch Group program and all the things in terms of the WhatsApp chat and the police station councils and all the things that come along with that. All right?
All right. Mr. Carmichael, I want to thank you so much again. Keep up the good work. All the best to you and your team. And let's take back our communities. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.